The day began like any other. A beautiful Saturday, November 26th, 2016. Amy Hart was full. She was in the midst of a thrilling adventure, exploring the mystical waters of the Sac Actun Cave in Mexico, one of the largest underwater cave systems in the world. To Amy, this was the ultimate escape, a chance to fulfill her passion for cave diving, exploring places few ever would. But little did she know, this day would soon turn into her worst nightmare. What was meant to be a perfect experience would quickly spiral into chaos, plunging her into the kind of darkness and terror she never anticipated. In this story, we'll explore Amy's fateful mistake, the moments that led her into a deadly situation, and the tragic reality that followed. The Sac Actun Cave is a place of wonder and danger. Located on the Yucatan Peninsula, it's a labyrinth of submerged tunnels, jagged rock formations, and crystal-clear pools that are breathtakingly beautiful, yet treacherous. The cave has been the site of numerous expeditions, but Amy had no idea that the very thing that fascinated her would soon become her tomb. As she arrived with her diving team, the atmosphere was electrified with excitement. The sun was high, casting a warm golden glow over the cave entrance, inviting all to explore its depths. Amy, eager for the thrill of discovery, suited up, checked her gear, and set off. The moment Amy stepped into the water, she was transported into another world. The sound of bubbles escaping from her tank echoed in the stillness, and the cold, clear water surrounded her like a heavy embrace. She and her dive team descended deeper into the cave, their headlights cutting through the blackness. The eerie quiet of the place made the beauty even more surreal. Amy swam through narrow passages, marveling at the stalactites that hung like frozen icicles, the underwater rock formations that seemed to tell stories of ancient times. She was no stranger to cave diving. This was her passion, her escape. She had dived here before and knew the risks, but the thrill of discovery always outweighed the danger. As they continued, the water became darker and the path more narrow. Amy, entranced by the beauty around her, swam ahead of the group. There was a part of the cave that always intrigued her, a narrow tunnel that promised to open into new chambers of mystery. She had dived it before, but today something was different. The deeper she went, the more the feeling of isolation sank in. The air felt thicker, and the weight of the water around her began to press on her chest. It was too late to turn back now. In a matter of seconds, everything changed. Amy found herself in a part of the cave that was more difficult to navigate than she remembered. A narrow, submerged passage, a choke point, had become even tighter since her last dive. But, determined to push forward, she continued. As she squeezed through, her equipment became entangled in the rocks. Panic began to set in. What had seemed like an exciting challenge only moments ago was now a deadly trap. Her breathing quickened, and the air in her tank began to feel too thin. She tried to back out, but it was no use. The more she struggled, the tighter the space became. She realized with growing horror that she was stuck. The current tugged at her, pulling her further into the darkness, and her light began to flicker. She tried to call out to her team, but the cave swallowed her voice. She was alone. Amy's heart pounded in her chest as she understood the gravity of the situation. She had made a fatal mistake venturing too far without realizing how treacherous the environment had become. In that moment, she knew she wasn't just lost, she was trapped. Amy fought to stay calm, but the overwhelming pressure of the water and her isolation made it impossible. Her mind raced as she rationed her air supply, every breath a reminder of her vulnerability. The panic started to claw at her. Was this how it would end? The weight of the situation was crushing. She was running out of time. In the darkness, she could feel her body growing colder, the sharp sting of hypothermia setting in. Her headlamp flickered again, casting long, terrifying shadows in the water. Every second felt like an eternity. She tried to move again, squeezing her body through the narrow crevice, but the passage was too tight. Every movement seemed to make things worse. Her tank and gear became obstacles, and her hands, numb and trembling, struggled to undo the tangled lines. In the deep silence, all she could hear was her own heartbeat and the faint sound of bubbles escaping. The world outside the world she had left behind felt so far away now. She had no choice but to keep fighting, keep breathing, keep trying to survive. Her only hope was to be found. But the question remained, would anyone find her in time? As Amy's situation grew more desperate, Her team realized something was wrong. They had lost track of her, and the minutes stretched into an agonizing silence. Amy's diving partners began a frantic search, calling her name, scanning the cave for any sign of movement. Meanwhile, back at the surface, the cave's remote location posed a serious challenge for rescuers. The team was limited by time, resources, and the complexity of the cave's underwater passages. Every moment counted, but the cave was vast and treacherous. The rescue teams mobilized quickly, determined to find Amy, but the challenges were immense. The same narrow passage that had trapped Amy now stood as an obstacle between the rescuers and their goal. With the clock ticking, the search effort grew more urgent. The divers faced not only the physical obstacles of the cave, but the overwhelming pressure to find Amy before it was too late. Hours passed, and the minutes felt like hours. The rescuers navigated the winding passages, their hearts racing as the search grew increasingly bleak. Amy's light had gone out, and the silence in the cave was deafening. Despite the best efforts of the rescuers, the unthinkable happened. Amy's body was found, lifeless, her spirit swallowed by the cave that had once held the promise of discovery. The final moments were devastating, not only for Amy, but for the rescue teams, her family, and the entire diving community. It was a tragic reminder of how fragile life is and how unforgiving the forces of nature can be. Amy's death sparked a wave of reflection within the cave diving community. Her story became a cautionary tale for future explorers, a sobering reminder of the risks involved in extreme adventures. While the allure of exploration remains strong, Amy's tragic fate underscores the importance of preparation, caution, and communication. It's easy to be swept away by the thrill of adventure, but one mistake, one misstep, can have life-altering consequences. In memory of Amy and her boundless love for exploration, we honor her spirit and the passion she had for discovering the unknown. Though her life was tragically cut short, her legacy lives on in the lessons we learn from her story. Her death serves as a stark reminder to all who venture into the unknown, the importance of preparation, caution, and communication. Adventures may offer the promise of discovery, but the price of adventure can sometimes be far higher than anticipated. To all future explorers, remember this. No matter how beautiful or captivating the journey may seem, never forget the risks. Safety is paramount. If you found this story meaningful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for more.